On today's episode, we will talk about tutorial hell and then some other options, maybe Nirvana and maybe heaven. How can you get there from tutorial hell? Welcome to the show. We've got some topics to discuss, including the biggest one is getting out of tutorial hell, or for those of you who don't use that word, which I understand, I used it only for, getting you to click and watch because it's the most common term. But the other term is tutorial purgatory. And the point here is you can get stuck. You really can get stuck in doing tutorials and you don't know how to get out of it and you're captured. So how do you escape the grips of the icy claws of tutorial purgatory or tutorial hell? Well, let's talk about how we get there first. So first of all, tutorial hell, tutorial purgatory is, if you're not familiar with the term, it means you are doing a lot of learning, but you are getting nowhere in your career. In other words, you are focused on learning so much that you've forgotten the point of where you're going. You've really lost touch. So you want to get out of there. And how do you do it? Well, let's talk about some ways. But is this a sign or a symptom of something? Or is tutorial hell really just a part of your path? Should you get into this area where you are doing tutorials every single day and you don't stop? Like you get in a situation where you're wanting to learn more and more and more. I mean, is that tutorial hell? Well, first of all, you do have to learn new things to get into tech. You can't just go into tech with the knowledge you have. Now, it could be that you're in that situation where you've been achieving a lot and you're just ready to switch. And because of you've been achieving and your knowledge is so great and you've been actually outputting work from that knowledge, putting it into practice, it's possible that you simply just have to show people what you can do and boom, you've got your career. It could be, though, and this is the case for most people when they use the term tutorial hell, it could be that you are learning too much. Yeah, it's possible to know too much. The problem with learning too much is, well, it's too much, but why do we say it's too much? You're all in your head and you are really just kind of creating things in your imagination to the point where you're understanding things you probably don't need to understand yet. And you can't escape this. I would call this probably an addiction. Now, some amount of that is okay. Let's say that you are starting this path. Most people who come to me, they are in the very beginning stages of their career. They are, making the switch in their career. They are at the point where they have looked at YouTube a few times. They have looked at what Coursera or what some other educational companies offer. They've maybe signed up for a free course or two or purchased, say, a $7.99 package on Coursera. They are using that information to sort of set like a welcome mat to the future. Their future, where they're going to live. They're going to be a tech career individual. They're going to be a programmer, data analyst, QA. They're going to be in Agile and doing project management or product management even. They're going to be in UI, UX, all of these. You've got data scientists. They've got all these titles out there just rolling around. They're going to be one of them. And we don't know what the house is going to look like, but we do know that there's a welcome mat at the front door. So the first thing we can do and just feel like we're making some progress is to just buy the course for $8, okay, US dollars. Now, is there a problem with buying courses? No. So, but then what we do, and that's just a welcome mat. There's just saying, look, we got a future out there, we hope, and we really want it to work, so we're buying this course. But the problem, you know it's a problem, and everybody knows it's a problem. When you buy the course, it sits there, and then instead of doing the course, you just might switch strategies a little bit. And so you take that welcome mat and you throw it in the garbage, or you just put it aside, and you buy a new welcome mat for the house. You put it down. The old one is brown. The new one's black. Oh, this is a different course for a different certification that seems to be a little bit more in line with what you could do. Okay. Is that a problem? That's not a problem. You might be doing, if this is you, great. I'm describing your situation. And you might be doing something that is good, refining your future, your goals without knowing you're doing it, or maybe you're analytical and you've done this all on a spreadsheet. Good for you. But then after 3 weeks, and this is fairly common, after 3 weeks, you look at that new, I think it was a black welcome mat. Maybe it's kind of textured, and the old one was brown and kind of just plasticky. We didn't like that one. So let's get a new course. The black one looks a little bit more official, more modern. But you know what? We are not sure if this is going to work because we tried the course for a day. It seems like these concepts are a little too tough. And so it seems like it's going to be difficult to do the projects they list. So let's go get another one. So we take that one, we shop for another one. This one's not on Coursera anymore. It's somewhere else. And you found someone who offers programming advice or whatever, and you bought their thing. And maybe this one, you're really going to do well this time because, it is $20. And it's going to be twice as good. We don't think that, but it kind of in our mind, we think, twice as much money, it's twice as good. It's going to work so much better. And you put that new welcome mat down. It's got carvings in it. It's one of those that if you picked it up and held it to the sun, you'd have to still shield your eyes because there are cutouts, and it's super ornate, and you've never seen a course this cool, and it's going to work. And you take the black welcome mat and you put it out. Meanwhile, people who drive by the house that you're putting this welcome mat in front of, they see the new welcome mat from the street, but they see the house. The house doesn't look very good. In fact, it doesn't even really have sticks up yet. It's just an empty lot. And they wonder, why is this really going to work for you? And this is tutorial hell. You are addicted to changing the welcome mat to your future, the introduction to your future, and switching to a tech career, but you are not doing the work. So this is kind of what it feels like. Everybody else starts to question you a little bit. Why are you spending so much time? And you start to kind of go undercover and get secret about it. These are all symptoms of something. And these are symptoms, not the problem. So it's not a problem to buy courses. All right. The problem is where you rely on the purchase or the investment of time, even if it's free, it's a purchase. You're just using your time and relationships as leverage. It's doing that and relying on that instead of relying on the knowledge you would have gained from that program, that course, and using that knowledge in order to put into practice so that you can put that onto a resume and then show the world and the marketplace that you have value. That's what you should be relying on, that entire process I described, versus simply relying on the feeling you get when you buy or invest your time into a new course. When I was beginning to switch into a tech career in my mid 30s, well, I would say early 30s, I started to begin because I was doing projects. Things were a little bit different back then, back in the day. I'll call it that. Because we did not have, you're waiting to see. If my kids were listening, they have heard me fill in the blank with many numbers of technologies here. And sometimes they fill in the blank with, did you have electricity? Yes. We had electricity. Thank you, kids. We did have cars, but we did not have, I will admit, we did not have streaming online courses. You could get a DVD, you could get video that way. It was just an extra step. So it was just as easy in my day when I made the switch to purchase a book. So you could go to the bookstore, you still can today, to go to the bookstore and get a book. And if you do that, it's a little bit more of a slow burn. It's sort of the way to learn, which is more like saving up vacation money in a jar using coins and cash than just getting a credit card and doing it that way. The people who do the credit card to pay for vacation, they end up kind of not enjoying it as much. And they don't look back on it as highly as if they saved up for a long time and a slow burn up of a slow collection of funds, as it were. The same thing was applicable to when I switched to tech and bought a book. I made this investment. It's a physical reminder in front of me that I've got to do something about it. And that is how I switched into a tech career. Buying books, studying the books, and getting to it. And so if you are stuck in tutorial hell, I would wager to say you are probably not someone who has learned by book. Maybe it's time for you to switch to a more physical investment like that. And it could be that this fixes your problem, because it is a problem. The problem is you're not applying what you've got. And the problem is that you don't think that you have to start just digging in, and that once you start digging in, you're going to get more interested. Why? Because you've invested. And after you've invested, it is a valid investment. It will pay off. So that is one possible solution, is to get books. The other is check the number of videos, how much time you spend watching the videos. Because people who watch the videos, they often find that it is just easier to watch another video rather than put into practice and create a project with what they've learned. So getting going on a project is needed. But the thing is, if you've ever been stuck in tutorial hell, you already know this. You already know it. And it doesn't break the addiction just to know something. What breaks the addiction is to be forced into it. So I would suggest that you shift your focus then from simply watching a video to, why am I doing all of this? That's not a comfortable question, because it exposes us for who we are. And we are most likely, if we're stuck in tutorial hell, we are most likely probably a person who's in a way, quite lazy. And this is tough. So if you're hearing this and you're saying, hey, Brooks is saying that I'm lazy, well, I might be. And if you don't know me, that's okay. So take it from someone you don't know to say, maybe you're lazy. You could be lazy. And I don't mean you don't do things. I mean you don't do the things that are hard. And I mean you don't do the things that get the payoff. Now, once you start doing the things that get payoff, that becomes easy. That becomes exciting. And that starts the wheel to turn. And that's when you really get traction. So take a step back and say, why am I watching this video right now? What is the output? And if you can't identify what the output is, that's a big red flag that you need to step back and reassess your entire structure around what you're doing. So the reason people put thousands and thousands of dollars into boot camps is because they think that it will help them and solve their problem. And often it does help them, but it often doesn't. And it doesn't solve their problem. What it does is makes them more qualified in their mind, but not qualified in the marketplace. I'll say that again. A boot camp, because it costs thousands of dollars often, makes them more qualified in their mind, but perhaps not more qualified in the marketplace, which results in the worst frustration I've ever seen in people's faces. So I have people come to me who think they've escaped tutorial purgatory because they took a boot camp and they realized through the boot camp that now they are just like a bunch of other people that took the boot camp, waiting for the world to respond and honor them with accolades and riches and employment because they've taken their boot camp. So there are no real solutions or quick or fixes for tutorial purgatory outside of the one, and that is to evaluate the purpose of your knowledge gaining and is to put it into practice. The purpose of getting knowledge is to put it into practice, which gives you wisdom. And that is what is going to get you hired. I mean, it's a part of it. It's not everything, but it's a part of it. So, I would just say, as I go through here, if you are struggling with getting videos and changing that welcome mat quite a bit, what you may have to do is step back, refocus, find out what's going to get you to put these things into practice that you've learned. And don't switch to a new thing to learn until you've put into practice the thing you've already learned. And that is going to gain you a lot of wisdom and a lot of attraction in the marketplace. For me, I came at going to switch to a tech career from the opposite way. As I mentioned, I learned from books, but there's a reason I bought a book. It was not to switch to a tech career. I bought a book because I had an idea and I had to learn how to program to get the idea come to fruition. When I lived in Des Moines, Iowa, I was doing many things for work, but one of the ideas I had was to take my real estate license and put it into practice in a different way, and that was to offer homes for sale by owner and realtors. So I wasn't really going against the grain of realtors, but I was trying to also assist more people than just realtors. Nowadays, you know of Redfin and Zillow, but those were very local companies when I was getting started doing this idea. And so I implemented the idea by hiring a friend. And frankly, when the friend didn't go as quickly as I could either pay him or as he was able to, didn't have much time, the programming was slowing down. So I thought, why don't I learn how to program? And that is very realistically, very truthfully, the reason that I had to go buy a book and learn. I remember it was a Sam's book. It was SAMS, not Sam's Club, but SAMS was the name of the company that published it. And it was about PHP and MySQL programming to make websites. So that's why I got a tutorial in the form of a book, was because I had a need and I had to go get a book. So many more people who switch to a tech career today go about it the other way, and that is, I want to switch to a tech career. Let me learn some code. and it's pointless. And that will end you up changing out the welcome mats instead of building the house. So if you have any questions, love to hear them. You can respond on the Spotify version of this podcast, or you can email info@techlead.com, TEKLEED.com. It's spelled really badly. And you can also, if you want to be a guest and get coached on how to switch to a tech career, you can be anonymous if you want. You can respond to the form in the podcast notes, in the show notes. I really appreciate that you showed up today and listened about tutorial hell, Nirvana, and heaven. We might not have touched on Nirvana and heaven specifically by name, but I think you could get the gist. How to get out of tutorial purgatory or tutorial hell. Put into practice what you've learned. And if you haven't done that yet, don't change to a new thing to learn unless you've evaluated your strategy and seen that what you are doing currently isn't going to result in a career that you'd like. So that's my encouragement for you. Thank you for joining the episode, and let us know through the form in the show notes if you'd like to be a guest. Bye-bye.